What would you say to all those Trump supporters who you basically just said are backing this divisive, amoral, horrific, bad orange man? And you're asking for healing, and you're a big part of the problem. You're not uncomfortable setting yourself up as the arbiter of who has a soul and who doesn't?
No, I just think I think our country's better off voting for character, not economics.
So check this out. CNBC anchor Joe Kernan slammed one of their guests this morning, Bitcoin bull Mike Novogratz. Joe Kernan slammed Mike Novogratz. I'm going to play you this clip. I couldn't believe this happened when I was watching it live. So just so you know, a lot of people in cryptocurrency like Joe Kernan because he's was very open-minded early on Bitcoin, and he seems to have an open mind with a lot of different things. So it was surprising bringing on regular guest Mike Novogratz to talk about Bitcoin in a post-election era. It was surprising what ended up pulling focus from that discussion was Mike Novogratz's steadfast support for Biden and unwavering disappointment with Trump and Trump voters. See, according to Mike Novogratz, the reason that we didn't see a blue wave like what he wanted and like what the mainstream media was projecting is because, according to Mike Novogratz, red states have less moral character than blue states, and Trump voters have less moral character than Biden voters. That's what he basically was saying. So before we get to Bitcoin, and you do want to see what Mike has to say on post-election Bitcoin, watch Joe Kernan's reaction. He couldn't help himself but to stand up.
You talk about Trump being a divider, and we do need to come together, I think. So does it give you any pause when you set yourself up as an arbiter of who has a soul, of who has morals, who is virtuous? You've got Florida, which went for Trump. You've got Ohio. What would you say to all those Trump supporters who you basically just said are backing this divisive, amoral, horrific, bad orange man? And you're asking for healing, and you're a big part of the problem.
If you looked at the polling data when they came out, they all said they were voting for economics.
For whatever reason. For whatever reason.
No, not for whatever reason. They were voting for economics over character. Every single Trump supporter right now
You're
says,
not uncomfortable setting yourself up as the arbiter of who has a soul and who doesn't?
No, I just think our country's better off voting for character, not economics.
Well, I know, but that's your opinion, and you saw how close the election was. All those other people have opinions too, Mike. They don't have billions of dollars. They may not have that hat, but all those other people have opinions.
They should all get a hat like this. It's pretty cheap.
Wow. So that was Joe Kernan standing up and standing by for Trump supporters everywhere. Do you agree with him or do you disagree with him? Now, personally, I like Mike and I like Joe. Normally, they'd be a lot friendlier, right? I think this election is really stressing a lot of people out, making a lot of people feel just unsteadiness in their lives. Which brings me to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has never been more steady. And that's actually why Mike Novogratz was on the show, to talk about Bitcoin and answer the hard questions about Bitcoin. And on election day, with Bitcoin rallying over $14,000, even today getting a higher high than yesterday, Mike Novogratz answers CNBC's 3 toughest questions. Watch this, and then we'll discuss. The first question is, how will Bitcoin react if the Fed starts to print less money?
Mike, you've been a big bull on cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and the like. I'm curious how you think the Fed, the role of the Fed going forward is going to be, given that there's probably going to be less efforts or ability to create massive stimulus. Therefore, does it fall onto the Fed? If it falls onto the Fed, is that ultimately good for your Bitcoin investment? How do you think through all of that?
What was so interesting watching, all the markets last night, right? The bond markets sold off and then rallied. Stocks, cryptocurrency was bid the whole night. Bitcoin was 14,000, 13,700, 13,800. We're in a bull market in Bitcoin. The Fed is going to be continuing to print, right? The crypto world has an expression, the Fed goes brr, that printing press going on and on. And so, less fiscal, more Fed, good for crypto. I think there's a bigger story with crypto, right? We have crossed the Rubicon in its adoption. You're going to see every bank, every tech company getting involved. And so I think we're at the start of a really big bull market there.
So the second question that Mike answers for these noobs, for these less educated people on cryptocurrency, hey, I like bringing everybody in, but they ask him, hey, Mike, is Bitcoin a currency or is Bitcoin an investment, right? Is it really a currency if it's an investment? It just makes you realize how early we are hearing these same basic questions brought up each and every time. If you subscribe to this channel, you're definitely way more informed than anybody in the mainstream media on Bitcoin, on cryptocurrencies. Anyways, Mike answers this question beautifully.
But can I just ask one question about that, Mike, and not to take us off the election, but the idea that it turns into a currency, which I know people have talked about for a very long time, if it turns into a currency, people actually aren't going to be using it as an investment.
No, I don't think it's good. I don't think Bitcoin's going to turn into a currency. I think it's going to be digital gold, but I think you're going to have a whole bunch of stable coins, you know, a Fed-backed or a Fed-sanctioned stable coin, which is going to change the whole payment rail of the U.S. and the world. And as that architecture gets built, it just makes it easier and easier for people to access Bitcoin and Ethereum and the other cryptos.
And finally, and speaking of stablecoins, it seems the whole world, I'm talking about not Bitcoiners, but the rest of the world, are waking up to the fact that governments and central banks across the globe are in a race who can create a CBDC first. And with the news that the president of the European Central Bank now saying that Europe is basically going to create a CBDC or in the process, what will that do to Bitcoin? Won't a CBDC hurt Bitcoin?
Mike, you heard Christine Lagarde talking about how the ECB is considering a euro cryptocurrency. What would that do to Bitcoin? Does it hurt its prospects?
No, I don't think so. In the same way, you know, a dollar crypto is not going to hurt Bitcoin. You know, people are going to buy Bitcoin because they're worried about central banks printing too many money. It doesn't matter if they're printing digital dollars, digital euros, or fiat dollars or euros, right? It's really central bank, politicization, right? We're in an era now where the central banks and the Ministry of Finances or the Treasury Departments are acting as one. And that's a really dangerous era. So people want to have hard assets. And in the digital world, Bitcoin is the hard asset. And so, I think we're moving there. You're going to have every central bank issuing a digital currency within the next 5 years. And so the excitement around this space, the excitement around our company and all the companies in the blockchain crypto space isn't just Bitcoin. It's literally building out this new architecture. And that's why you saw PayPal got involved. You're going to see Visa get involved. You mark my words.
Interesting. So he brought up PayPal. Speaking of PayPal, check this out. The rate of Bitcoin user adoption took a step up last month. This latest round of bullish price action has been supported by organic buyers. That's what we know. That's what we thought. What's interesting is this happened before the PayPal announcement. The flood of organic buyers happened before the PayPal announcement. So the PayPal announcement happened right here. You can see before was the start of the influx. Now, why is that? Well, I think, first of all, a lot of smart money is realizing that they can accumulate Bitcoin fairly low at, $10, $11, $12, $13, $14,000. But really, this speaks to the fact that the rest of the world is coming to terms with Bitcoin being in a bull market and Bitcoin and cryptocurrency having a strong future. They're coming to terms with what we understood. If you subscribe to this channel, you understood this when Bitcoin was around 6,000, when Bitcoin was around 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 14,000, 8,000, 7,000, 10,000, 4,000. It takes some people longer than others to realize what's happening. And Bitcoin being in a bull market takes risk off the table. It's less risky for high net worth individuals to invest in Bitcoin while it's breaking this resistance than Bitcoin at $3,000, just like in the last bull market. One of the best times to buy Bitcoin was right here. There was uncertainty here. And by the way, this was 4 years ago, the first Trump presidential election. And look what happened. Well, something happened similarly. Keep this in mind. We just talked about the last 4 years. How about the last 2 hours? Bitcoin has spent more time above 14,000 in the last 2 hours than it has in the last 2 years. Incredibly bullish. And finally, check out this metric. Pre-halving, the Cash App was buying 20% of all newly issued Bitcoin. Because of the halving, now they're buying 40% of all newly issued Bitcoin. That's not counting Grayscale. That's not counting the tons of other people and institutions buying. So you can go round and round with pundits on valuing Bitcoin. One thing is certain. When net supply goes way down and demand is constant or growing, the price will go up. So with that being said, thank you for staying in tune with the market with me today. You know, obviously the election is some of the biggest news. We will continue to keep you informed on Bitcoin and all of cryptocurrency, the whole market. And yeah, it's going to be a great year.